Okay. Very well. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Bruno's MMA show. I am going live on Instagram, and everything will be uploaded on YouTube after a fact. This is why I'm already talking, even though no one logged in yet. The sign behind me might appear in reverse right now. I'm not sure how the Instagram settings work, but it was done by Con Artist Design, Con with a K, on Instagram. Really recommend that you check out his stuff. The sign itself wasn't done by him, but he did the logo. And my wife, as a gift, printed this for me. So I just wanted to point it out. And also, as a side note, starting next week, I will be going live. I'm going to try that out for a few weeks on Odyssey, Odyssee. I want to try to up the production values a little bit. I'm going to get some lighting for my face because, with the eyebrows, sometimes like, there's big shadows in my eyes or uneven light. Right now, this side has more light. It's the window. So starting next week, I'll be on Odyssey, Bruno's MMA show on Odyssee. If you want the link, it's on my Twitter, Bruno's MMA show 1. 1 is the digit, not the word. But this week I'm still going on. As a side note, it's because I want to do some live streams where I can maybe put up some screenshots, some stuff like if I do maybe a little setup where I can show pictures of what I'm talking about, stuff like that. The reason why I'm going live today on Instagram is because I have an online pen pal, I guess. I don't know what to call it. Todd Atkins, who has his own show, of course, a much bigger show than mine, to be honest. And he's joining me today, so I wanted to go live on Instagram to be able to do this with him. And also maybe another friend will join later to discuss something else. But yeah, let's get started. So I'm gonna invite Todd Atkins in, and you see how much of an expert I am in this, where I invited someone the other day. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Let's see. Hey, Todd.
What's up?
Hey, man. Still waking up, you?
Yeah. I'm out in this is Lake Tenkiller in Oklahoma.
Oh, it looks lovely. Oh, wow. I mean, it's all okay. I'm gonna be honest. It's all light behind you. We don't really see the lake, but
Yeah,
I see a tree. I hear birds. I'm convinced. Oh,
yeah.
wow.
You might be able to see it later.
I'm not gonna show you out my window. It's like neighbors with clothes outside on the lines. I don't think anyone wants to see my neighbor's underwear.
I'm just vacationing right now, so yeah. Now you can see it. There you go.
Oh, that's amazing, man. What a view. Lots of light again, but like my imagination fills in the gaps there. Oh, okay. Wow. Now I see it. Wow, that's zen. I don't normally use that word, but I'll use it in this case.
Yeah.
It's really zen, man. Todd, man, I gotta say, like, just a little intro to you. I mean, okay, it's I stumbled upon your show, and I don't know if I followed you. I don't remember when I started following you, but there's a lot of people you follow on Instagram, and you kind of like, oh, they got a show, you follow, and you never kind of. I'm like, I'll watch it later, and then I never watch it. And at some point, I just happened to be kind of like, I don't know, I had time to kill, and your show was online on Instagram, was live, and I checked it out. It was this cop who had worked in Hawaii.
Yeah.
And since then, like, I was like, oh my God, this guy like, finds guests with the craziest stories ever. It is amazing. And you go through the effort of I wish I had the time for that, like, but you go through the effort of like grabbing snippets from the interviews and making short videos. So even if maybe I can't, like, I don't have the time to watch the whole show, I can go on your Insta and just listen to this one crazy story from this ex-fighter in the early 2000s, and you're like an encyclopedia of like Pride Day MMA and all that stuff. So I just want to point out, I mean, you got a really cool show. Like, the stories are crazy.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
And how does that work? Like, do you go through the okay, back in the day, I remember this fighter, and then you contact them, or like, do you have a
Uh,
network at this point? Yeah.
well, back in the 90s, like late 90s, there's a website, which is still around. It's called MMA.tv.
Okay.
It's just a website, and it's a forum. But back in the day, it was called submissionfighting.com. They changed the name of it to MMA.tv. And
Right.
everybody was there. It was kind of like the
Really?
social media of
No way.
that time. So all the fighters were there, all hardcore fans, everybody. So most of the people didn't post on their own name, but I did. So a lot of people knew me from that.
I am guessing you were not talking trash.
Sometimes it was, yeah.
Under your
Yeah, I
real
mean,
name. Hey man,
back then we
props.
were all
Props.
critical of what we were seeing because it was new, right?
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of, oh, this doesn't work, that doesn't work type
Jesus.
talk going on. So yeah,
Todd,
some of it, I think everyone was a little critical because they were also growing with the sport. So they were kind of like saying, okay, we don't like this about the show, we like that about the show, that kind of stuff.
you know what? And I'm gonna save that for my next episode because again, I want to do like an actual screenshots and everything. But
Hmm.
I gotta tell you, I'm also a geek, and I have this other show no one watches. It's like an actual play D&D. I just play D&D online, and it's
Oh
like
yeah, yeah.
this thing.
Played when
I
I
do
was
it.
younger. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I still do it, and I'm almost 40. So what does that say about me? I don't know. But it's kind of crazy because I go on my Twitter, and like as MMA fans, we think that 2021, the answers for martial arts are here. We think they are, right? We think that everyone knows this doesn't work, this works. Like, as MMA fans, we think that the world knows now. It's all clear, it's all been clarified. It hasn't, man. I swear to God. Like, and I'll go into detail in my next episode because I want to take the time to read the tweets and with the screenshots.
Mm.
But there's this, I guess you could call him like a D&D celebrity or whatever on Twitter. And the other day he mentioned he was a black belt in Tai Chi, and it just went down from there. And I'll have counter arguments to myself because I've heard stories of people who practice Tai Chi differently, but overall, like the point is, you wouldn't really recommend Tai Chi for self-defense, even if you are like one rare case of someone who practices a form of Tai Chi that would be somehow applicable to real life situations. I think it would be responsible to tell people most schools of Tai Chi would not be that. First of all, like even if there's something I don't know about Tai Chi, where hey, there's this one school in the whole country of the USA or in Canada, like there's one school where their version actually works. It's kind of like karate, where there's some very legit styles of karate and very bad styles. And normally the legit karate fighters, if they're asked, does karate work for self-defense, they'll be the first ones to tell you, like, depends which school. Like, they'll be the first ones to acknowledge that, right? They're not going to go blanket, oh, all karate is good for self-defense. Like, go do sport karate, it'll be good for self-defense. Like, it doesn't work like that. So it's crazy to me. You're telling me, oh, back then we didn't know what worked or didn't. And, like
Right.
the other day was like a wake-up call where most people still don't know what works or doesn't. It's
Yeah, yeah, that's
depressing. And
true.
the guy was like, "Oh, Tai Chi actually means like ultimate grand fist." I don't remember what it means. Like what it, and just he said it as if the meaning of the name meant something as to its efficiency, and never answered my request for, "Can you show me any technique on YouTube that it would be applicable self-defense for Tai Chi?" And just like all his followers were liking that and ignoring my comments, which my motivation was like, guys, I'm just saying this for you. And like, you got people who, I don't want to jump to conclusions, but if I look at their profiles, they've never sparred in their lives, never took a punch to the face. And they're liking this comment because it's kind of like encyclopedic, right? Like, oh, if this is what it means, duh, as if we could argue this the same way we'd argue D&D rules with books, like, and I was just like, anyway, all that rant to say that, like, for us, maybe we're like, oh, this works, this doesn't work. For the rest of the world, man, I gotta tell you, like, people don't know shit.
Yeah. Well,
Just,
let them do what they want to do. Back then, I cared a lot. People, I think, cared a lot more now that, mixed martial arts is out there. I think guys that even fight don't really care about that stuff as much as they used to. Because back
yeah,
on the forums, guys that were fighting were made a real point to get on people like that. But
yeah.
I think now that the sport is so popular, these guys don't really care what people are doing. If they're still doing it, then so be it.
I think it's And if I'm honest with myself, because I'm gonna contradict myself, like my position was more like not wanting people to get hurt in theory, like not wanting someone to
Yeah.
think this is an efficient form of self-defense, which is if someone's arguing for a sport of MMA, does a front kick work or not? And then Anderson Silva comes out, yeah, it works. But what I mean is, okay, that's in the context of a sport, but then you talk about self-defense, and then I think it becomes important. Then again, I do feel like at the same time, like the people liking that will probably never take up an actual combat sport. So maybe I'm wasting my energy, but whatever. I might be. I might be.
They probably don't like you very much for that, but
yeah, it's
that's
kind of yeah, it's kind of funny because I'm kind of stuck in between these two hobbies, aren't I? Like, and one is one is very left wing, the other is very right wing, and I'm here in the middle, and every time I log on to a different account, it's like Jesus, like, it goes from all a range of opinions, and it's kind of like funny. Like you have one side, it's like, guys, if this morning you stub your toe, I want you to know I'm there for you. If you have trouble because you stubbed your toe. By the way, the other day I made a typo when I was typing something in Twitter. If my typo offended anyone has bad memories of the homework assignment where they made a typo and they lost it, I'm so sorry for triggering you. And then the other side is like, man, I don't know. Like I don't want to get into that. I don't know, like conspiracy theories and anyone who healthcare is communism, and so I'm like going both sides. And I'm like, where do I fit in? It's crazy, man. Anyway, it's but whatever. Let's I don't know. I have a list of things we can discuss about current MMA news.
Sure.
Is there anything that you wanted to bring up today?
Well, you might have want to watch yesterday because I had John Hackleman, Jesse on Fire, who's kind of another guy like me, and John Hackleman.
Yeah, I didn't have time to watch it.
He jumped in on the live after we started, but they were talking a lot about Diego Sanchez and also just kind of fighter health after the fact. So that's kind of what we were talking about yesterday.
Yeah, I don't want to make you retread too much on that, but for my own sake, I guess we'll touch upon that. But yeah, that was on my list, definitely. I imagine that you suspected so. It's hard to, yeah, it's, did I even write it? Oh my, I didn't even write it. It was so obvious it was going to be on the list, I didn't even write it. Did you see the training montage out of the Bloodsport movie from '88? Yeah?
I saw that movie probably 1,000 times, I would think.
Oh, but I mean the training montage of Diego with Fabia. Oh, no, that looks like you didn't watch it. Okay, man,
I need to watch it.
Okay, let me give you some quick context of what it is. The things. Okay, some stuff is kind of like a very pointless but harmless. Like it's not efficient training, but like whatever. One of them is like Diego's in the ring blindfolded, and Fabia's like whipping him with a black belt, and Diego has to like counter blindly. Although a bit dangerous because they're in at least in an open area like wrestling mats, I'd be fine with it. But the messed up part is at some point Diego throws a kick and his leg goes like through the ring ropes, so he could fall off the ring. It's not safe. But regarding everything they do, that's the least of it. And I shouldn't be saying this with a smile actually, because what comes next is not fun. Like now I'm laughing because I'm thinking specifically of the ring thing, but as I come into the next part, that part's not funny. And the other part is he's hanging upside down, and they're both shirtless for some reason. I mean, Diego's training, I guess, and Diego's like this upside down, hanging upside down. And then Fabia proceeds to, and we're talking CTE and all that shit. And Fabia proceeds to use Diego's head as a speed bag. I'm not joking. He uses his head as a speed bag. And again, CTE doesn't need like big punches, just like pointless little hits to the head, like the Three Stooges. The Three Stooges, the actor who was always getting smacked in the head, he had CTE. Like, so it's not like you need to be punched by Mike Tyson every day of your life to get CTE. It's just like if it's pointless, if it's nonstop, that's CTE. Like soccer kids can get it if they freaking practice the bouncing the ball in their head too much. So he uses his head as a speed bag, and then Diego covers up like this, and Fabia's like throwing kicks at him, hanging upside down, and yeah, that's the video, man. I just described it to you. Like you have to see it because it has this like weird porn vibe to it, like underground porn vibe. I'm not trying to be crass here. It really does. It really. And Fabia's like with his creepy voice is like, oh yeah, we're getting that Costamado Mike Tyson vibe, aren't we? I'm like, what's going on? It's just like,
Yeah, I don't know what they're, you know, I assume part of them is just playing with people, but
I don't think so.
also part of it is that they're weird, you know,
Yeah.
but I think it's a little of both.
You think?
Yeah, for sure. You know, like
I wish. I hope
they
you're right.
always said in pro wrestling, if you're Diego's a weird person anyway. He is just in his regular life, but
Yeah.
if you're yourself with the volume turned way up, that's better in pro wrestling, and I think that's kind of what they're doing. They're both weird, and then they're turning the volume up more than they normally would in their normal lives, so
I
they can
hope
get
so.
attention. Because Diego's not going to get attention from fighting. He's not going to be like a top level fighter anymore. He knows that. So I think for some reason he thinks this is the way he wants to get attention. I don't know if that's the right way, but that's what he feels like. He's trying to get attention by being this weird person with the volume turned way up.
I hope so, man. I hope so. Because it's so messed up when you see that.
He's
It's
always
almost,
been weird. If you've seen him over the years,
yeah,
he's always been strange.
yeah, I know, but it's kind of like one thing is for, like I don't know, like Eddie Bravo talking about flat Earth, but no one is taking advantage of Eddie Bravo. Like Eddie Bravo's just who he is.
Yeah.
I would even say he's a kind of personality that it would be really, I think, difficult to take advantage of him, even if I can give him that compliment, as I'm kind of like, I don't remember if he believes in flat Earth or just likes to go for the arguments. I don't remember. I don't pay attention that much to that stuff, but what I mean is like, there's people who are weird, but who are not easily taken advantage of for the weirdness.
Right.
If anything, sometimes it makes them more headstrong and harder to mess with because they'll almost be paranoid. And then you have other people. And it's kind of funny, isn't it, life? Because you have this person, Diego Sanchez, who, like when you talk about being vulnerable, people often think of physical vulnerability. And then you have like this man who is a world level fighter, professional fighter, like can kick the ass of almost any person he'll come across, and yet he can be in his own way very vulnerable. And it's just a contrast of life, and you're like, there's different kinds of strengths, isn't there? Like, there's different kinds of strengths in life. It's crazy because the amount of people who look at that and are just like, oh my god, I feel for this guy. And yet this guy is like this combat machine, but it doesn't matter because in this aspect of life, I think it's real. I don't know why the feeling it's so icky, and I don't. There's something about the vibe, and but I understand your point, and I hope you're right. I really hope you're right.
I'm saying it is real, but they're going above. They are weird already.
Yeah.
I'm saying if we be extreme, we'll get more attention. But they probably would be doing some level of strange stuff anyway.
Do you think it's strange like
more than we normally would?
Do you think it's strange like fingers on the booty hole, like McGregor and Postable Khabib? Do you see that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
That post, that's a lot proper 12 right there.
Yeah.
So it's a joke everyone's making. You know what? It's not, oh my god, I'm so unoriginal. Everyone's making that joke. He drank too much proper 12. Well, okay. Even I'm calling myself out here. That's a joke everyone's using. That was kind of weird. Okay. Like since you're an old school fan, this is something I'm happy to discuss with you. The next topic, if you will. Masvidal wants to start a bare knuckle fighting MMA organization using the same rules as for bare knuckle boxing, where the rules in Florida are that you need to wear gloves, but nothing says they have to cover the knuckles. And that was why at first I thought they had that for wrist support, and then it turns out, no, it's really because of the law. Like that's the law that they need to wear gloves. And what do you think about MMA going bare knuckle?
So it's going to be MMA rules, just bare knuckle?
Yeah, that's what Masvidal wants to do, and they'll have to wear gloves, but that don't cover the knuckles. So in bare knuckle boxing, it goes like this over the thumb. So it's and I really it's just yesterday I learned because I wanted to look into it to discuss it, and yesterday oh my god, I forgot his name. There's a combat sports lawyer who's actually Canadian, and he made a video about the laws of bare knuckle boxing. He also made a really interesting video about the 10-point system, 10-point must system. And I forgot his name, but he's a just right like Combat Sports Lawyer Canada, I guess. If anyone's interested, Google and. But he was talking about it, how it's a loophole. Like in Florida, for boxing, you need gloves, but nothing said that they need to cover the knuckles unlike other places, so they went for it. And so Masvidal wants to do bare knuckle because Masvidal started as a bare knuckle fighter. You know, like oh my God, I forgot his name. Oh my
Kimbo.
God. Yeah, thank you, Kimbo Slice. I can't believe I forgot his name. And I guess he wants to bring that back. And what are your thoughts of that? Like MMA going bare knuckle, like MMA but bare knuckle.
Well, it was like that before, so I don't necessarily have a problem with it. I don't know how much commissions will have a problem with it, though, or the public. Yeah. But it was like that in the beginning, so I'm used to that.
Yeah, I think it's kind of funny where bare knuckle stuff and all that. Like I see it as. If you are talking amateur level, I don't like it in the sense that in amateur level, no one's going to test for STDs, stuff like that. There's going to be lots of cuts, lots of blood, and then you're grappling. And I'm like, oh, that could end bad. I know with the shoulders already, but very often in amateur MMA, you're not even allowed shoulders. So to me, anything that draws a lot of blood is perfectly fine if you're in a pro organization that's going to test everyone. Like no one has STDs, no one has blood diseases that could be transmitted. And yeah. I'm a stickler for those things. That's who I am. And other people might say I'm very nitpicky on these things, but it's kind of weird where I do think I'm not a pro fighter. I don't want to be. I mean, after a pandemic's over, I really want to take a few amateur fights just to get it out of my system. But I'm almost 42, so it's like I started training late. But I do feel like if I were to fight pro or whatever, like if the pay was the same everywhere, I would probably go with bare knuckle in the sense that, yeah, okay, your face is going to get cut up, but your brain is going to be better in the long run. Because people who look at bare knuckle, and even Joe Rogan was praising no gloves, and then he saw bare knuckle boxing, was like, oh, well, it's too much. However, I would argue bare knuckle boxing, they put this like small like circle ring, fighters start really close, and the rules are made where you're encouraged to go forward, otherwise you might lose the fight. If you're going backward, like those rules, like what happened with Paul Molinagi and Artem Lobov, where they made Malinagi lose just because he was going backwards a lot. And whatever you might think of that result, but the way the rules are set is for people to play suck and rock robots. But if you're doing actual MMA, I think what it'll do is it'll bring back the grappling a lot more. It'll like people are not going to be swinging for offenses. Like when they introduce gloves in MMA, the knockouts started going up big time. So I do think it's going to be bloodier but safer. And I think the number of cuts we see in bare knuckle boxing are not a good indication, because when you look at Letway fights, for example, which is bare knuckle, I mean, they do have some ugly swells from the headbutts sometimes, but it's not like their faces can end up cut up, but it's there's something about shot selection with the punches, right?
One thing John was saying yesterday,
yeah.
CTE and stuff like that, it's from accumulation in the gym, not fights.
Okay.
And I talked to Chris Lieben about this a couple of times. I used to train with Chris Lieben, and I
didn't know that.
I used to train with him in Hawaii. He came out there for a year. And guys, when you're training for bare knuckle, in the fights, you don't want to take any hits because you're going to be bleeding. So you're more prone to catch punches and also try to make guys miss. As to where in MMA with gloves on, some guys are more tendency to not be as defensively careful. So in some ways, bare knuckle training for it, and also in the fights themselves, guys will try to be more defensively responsible, even if they get maybe cut more. So in that way, it might actually be a little safer. And also, you can't train bare knuckle in training, so because you're going to get cut up in a lot. So they do spar, like Chris says, he uses the puffy MMA gloves. But the problem is with that, he said the distance between a glove, like a
Yeah.
glove and bare knuckle, he thinks is bigger than an MMA glove and a boxing glove. Because he was saying when you throw a punch, even with a puffy MMA glove,
Okay.
that lands in bare knuckle, it won't. So a lot of times they aren't doing as much sparring, period, because you're having to practice with the no gloves on, but not really hitting each other because you got to get your distance down, and you can't get your distance down with a glove on.
Okay. I was gonna say the I happened to have this in my closet the other day. This was on the floor next to me. So as we were talking, this is 7 ounces, and when I did my combat sambo before the pandemic, I would love to spar with these and a helmet. So this metal padding, have a responsible partner. Do not spar with this with someone you don't know. But like if you have headgear and you have this I liked. I don't know what it is about me. I really hate. I mean, I love my gloves. You know, like I got amazing some twins that my wife bought for me for my birthday a few years ago. Like orange twins are lovely. Like 16-ounce gloves. I hate fighting with boxing gloves or Muay Thai gloves or sparring rather. I haven't fought yet I fought in my life, but not like sport wise. I don't know, like there's something about this where I kind of like the feeling because I keep my like there's a hand I keep forward more and I catch a lot. Even with the twins I do, they're all like my left glove is all like scuffed in the inside because I'm always like and with the boxing gloves like you don't really get that feel. So for bare knuckle boxing for sure, I don't see how. I don't like to show up. It doesn't feel comfortable to me. Like when I do, I feel like I just become
bare
a
knuckle either. That's something that Chris talked about. If you try to cover up, it's not going to work.
I hate it. Every time I do kickboxing, it's kind of funny where I don't mind doing striking only, but I almost want to do the kickboxing. Even if it's kickboxing, I would like to do with like the small gloves, like 7 ounces and a headgear, let's say, just in case you hit the person on the temple. Because even if you don't hit hard, even if there's a bit of padding, like it's a the headgear, if you're wearing big gloves, I don't see the headgear as being super necessary, but for small gloves, I do think it's because if you get hit on the temple or something, it freaking sucks. So I don't know, like me, I really like to keep a hand forward. I don't, every time I show up, I just become this like easy target where people start working my body, and that doesn't happen to me when I wear the small gloves. And maybe it's mental. Maybe it's, I've been told that it shouldn't make that much of a difference. So maybe it's just my mind that there's like something I need to unlock or I don't know. But I think it's a good idea.
About bare knuckle is, it's kind of like the early UFCs. A lot of guys backstage, from what I'm hearing, are asking each other like, "What are you doing to prepare for this?" And that was common in the old UFCs. There was a lot more camaraderie among the fighters than there is today. Because a lot of fighters are doing something where they were like, "I don't know if I should be doing this," and also they didn't know how to prepare for it. So they would talk backstage, "What are you doing? Are you hitting sand? Are you punching the glove with it? Are you punching the bag without gloves on?" There's a lot of talking backstage amongst the fighters, even though they're competing, which is how the old UFCs were.
Wonder Boy does the rice thing, karate, rice like a snacking. Is it a rice thing or the
that stuff?
No,
you know, he doesn't do any conditioning of the hands. He said maybe if he was younger, he might have looked into it, but you know, for fighting, he feels like doing the actual stuff rather than hitting sand or something is more productive, especially at this point.
Yeah, it's also after all that fighting, I guess by then, if his hands should be somewhat conditioned, right? It's not like he's starting like that's true. That's very true. Also, you look at the Kyokushin karate people, and their hands are like basically have become like this like calcium hammer. But then I'm like, how good is that hand for grappling at this point? You know, like, or even old school kung fu people who like you look at their hands, it's all like just like, I don't know if it's calcium or what, but like just like this mass. And I'm like, can they even like open their hands, or are their hands like this by default? Are they like a pride glove as a default? You know, like, so I don't know. I don't have the answers to that. But I'm really interested. I'm really interested in seeing bare knuckle MMA. I think I would really like it, and this is gonna.
You've seen it before. Did you see the early UFCs?
Of course. Oh, dude, I was a teenager, and I was renting. I would go to the video store, and we had like UFC from 1 to 3. It was around like between 97 or 99. I don't remember anymore. and I was like somewhere between like 15 and 17, I guess. And I loved it. I loved it.
So
It was
you've seen
just
it. It probably won't have as violent rules. They aren't gonna. I doubt they let them soccer kick and stuff.
nah. It'll be the same rules
Stomps.
as
But you've
UFC,
seen it.
but yeah, of course.
I
But I
think
want
it'll
to.
be hard for him to promote it very long, because it's just difficult to promote.
Oh
Period.
no 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 no! I disagree. I think Masvidal because his whole
It's
rep
tough.
is the gangster thing, the Miami gangster thing. So I think he's gonna have no trouble finding the crowd for it. It
Yeah,
depends
but I
just
mean,
how.
getting it to a big level, it might be hard.
Oh no, I think he can make it profitable. I don't think he's gonna make it big level. I think he's gonna be on Fight Pass. I think it's gonna be like Chael Sonnen
Yeah,
Submission
that could.
Underground. It'll
Yeah,
have its crowd. It's gonna be profitable. I don't think it competes UFC. I think it's gonna be an umbrella under the umbrella of Fight
yeah.
Pass. That's what I think, which
Hmm.
is fine. Not everything needs to be the biggest thing ever. And even as a geek, there's indie stuff I like in role playing games and comic books, whatever. Like not everything needs to be Batman, Superman, and D&D and the geek stuff. So for fighting, you have Chael Sonnen Submission Underground, and even the name says Underground. Like know, so it's I think there's a place for it. And what I mean by I really want to see it, of course, there's the early UFCs. I can put Fight Pass on and just watch them, but with modern fighters, I'm really interested to see that because it's not the same. I could argue back then, and you know what we might start seeing more is the Bassroot and Bish slap behind
Yeah,
the ear. You know, like Bassroot has spent years telling people, and people are like, "Man, we got gloves now. We're just gonna swing for fences." And I feel like, although I think it has its place because I really think like when you go around, like if something's in the way of a punch, like you can definitely take out the momentum. But what if it? Yeah, well, I don't know. I'm overthinking now, um, but I think we might start seeing them slaps. You know, like the that'd
yeah,
be funny. That'd be kind of funny when people like, I don't want to mess up my knuckles, or they break their hand and they decide to use this because their hand is broken. They could still do it with gloves, I guess. But yeah, I'm excited to see it with modern techniques, modern fighters, how they translate that. Um, definitely. Um, yeah. Okay. Now, do you want to talk about the Perez brothers? Because they're having very different storylines right now.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. I mean, well, one of them's a lot younger than the other.
Hmm.
I don't know how far apart they are, but Anthony was fighting for a long time before his brother started fighting. So
Anthony has more mileage in any case. I don't know if they have like 1 or 2 years difference or if it's 5 or 6. Anthony has more mileage. That's one way to put it. Doesn't matter
probably more
which one's
mileage in
younger.
the
Yeah.
gym too. That's where it's at. Like I said before, it's the gym. It's not the fights. Anthony probably has a lot more mileage in the gym than his brother.
Yeah.
So his brother's starting to have this similar to success that he was having in the WC and stuff, and the UFC even when he first started. So he's seeing the same kind of or similar results later on, obviously. But yeah, it's understandable.
One thing that I find, and congrats to Sergio Pettis, by the way,
Yeah.
for the belt. One thing that I find interesting though, what's happening lately is as the sports become more popular, with the UFC, it's trickling down to the other organizations, and now that fighters are starting to test free agency a bit more, which I'm happy about, you can see how I think it's going to start dawning on people that UFC, it's not like the other organizations only have like scrubs and UFC is the only place where true fighters go. I think it's starting to dawn on people when Anthony Pettis, even if you can argue, okay, it's not going to speak anymore, he goes to PFL, loses. Demetrius Johnson lost in one. Although I wonder, man, that guy was so much, he seemed so much bigger. I don't know about the weight,
Who play
how
Collard?
they,
Are you talking about? Oh, you're talking about the guy Demetrius fought.
well, yeah, sorry. Yeah, I'm all
The
over the
guy
place.
Pettis fought is really tough.
Yeah, yeah.
When Max Holloway came to Tulsa, Oklahoma, that's kind of where I'm from. I'm from a suburb of Tulsa. And those guys were with me most of that week, all the guys from Hawaii. And he fought Clay Collard. If you go back, he had a fight with Clay Collard here. It was, I think, 2013. And Clay Collard, I don't know what happened, but he ended up going to boxing and didn't continue in the UFC. So he's been boxing a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a pretty dangerous fighter, man, because he's had so much boxing experience. He was already a tough, kickboxer and stuff. And him and Max had a pretty entertaining fight. You know, Max ended up stopping him late in the fight, but it was pretty entertaining. And Collard's tough, so it didn't necessarily surprise me that he beat Pettis. I always feel like boxers are a problem for kickboxers if they can take the space away. You know, and especially if they're trained like Collard, who knows about kicks and stuff because he fought MMA and he did a lot of kickboxing. So their hands are better than the kickboxers. So they get close to them. It's real difficult for guys like Pettis to fight a guy like him because their boxing skill is so much better, or at least it's better than his. And he doesn't have the space to kick.
Yeah. Pettis is definitely a Taekwondo striker. So for sure. And you know what you were saying kind of makes me realize I have this theory, and everyone's different, and maybe someone will say I'm completely off the mark. You know how there's this debate, should people train to be specialists if they want to do MMA and then go into MMA, or should they do MMA pure? And I think the real value is you start with MMA and then spend a lot of time specializing, like invest the time, because those early instincts will stay with you. Whereas if you start in boxing or just with whatever, like I think that part of you will always have those. You know, like Ben Askren when he got knocked down by Jake Paul, he was explaining how he dropped his guard on one side because as an MMA fighter, he always did that so people would swing so he could take them down. And that habit, he just didn't have the time to get rid of it. So habits are this thing that just becomes what it is. You know, like for example, as a teenager, I did Taekwondo, and if I'm really, really tired, my kicks start going more like whip instead of baseball swing. You know, it's there. It's like if I get really, really tired, the kicks become less Muay Thai, they become more Taekwondo. And that was when I was a teenager. So it's just I don't know. I think there's something to be said for the guy we're talking about. Like he's you know, he did MMA, then he went into boxing and spent a long time in boxing. Then he goes back to MMA. But those early things that he had, it's not like he has the instincts of a pure boxer. You know, like I think he still has that memory of, yeah, some dude can take me down if I do this. Like if I do like a fancy boxing shoulder block from really close, someone's gonna clinch me. You know, like just stuff like that. It's or when do you? Oh my God, what happened? Like when do you? Oh my God, I'm so tired. Dip, not dip. When you're like crouching in boxing.
Slip.
Sorry?
Slip or roll.
Yeah, like when you go like this, and I used to not believe in it at all because of knees and stuff like that. But over time, you see like Gaethje and Ferguson, you're like, okay, that works. But then you see what happened with the guy who fought. Oh my God, this is so disrespectful. The guy. Wait, I have it in my notes. Okay, Derek Anderson yesterday when he tried to slip and Michael Page just kicked him as he was going down and his nose just went inwards and you're like, shit. Well, I'm getting off track from the whole boxing thing and habits.
He got baked though. He brought his hand up like this that made him do that. He intended to throw the kick the whole time.
Yeah.
He brought his hand up to make him react a certain way.
Yeah.
But he had his hands down. If he didn't have his hands down, that kick wouldn't have landed.
Never put your hands down against a taller opponent. And here I am talking like, okay, the guy's a pro fighter, like he's gonna tell me, shut up, what do you know? But me personally, if I'm fighting a taller fighter who can just like lift his knee and he's already kicking me in the head or some shit, I just keep my hands up. I just, you know what? F it. I'm just gonna become this like very hands up fighter if the guy's taller than me. That's for sure. But again, it's easy to say here, but like the guy's actually fighting.
Well,
but it was horrible. It was horrible.
Behavior baited him into like copying him, because you saw they were kind of mocking each other, and then he brought his hand up like this.
I haven't seen the event yet. I've seen some highlights. I said I haven't had the time to see the whole event yet.
He lowered his hands because Page was fighting that way, you know, like he always does.
Yeah.
So he was they were like mocking each other.
Oh my God, no.
Page brought his hand up like this, and he went, you know, but his hands were down because they were mocking each other. Yeah, that's when that happened.
Oh no. Oh no, that's awful. Here I am smiling. That's awful.
Michael Page does that. He gets in people's heads. Kind of like the Diaz brothers. You know, he gets in people's heads with his antics.
Yeah.
And then they don't do what they would normally do.
there's something about Page where even watching him, I get angry at him. And like,
Yeah.
I mean that as a compliment. I mean,
Yeah.
I have nothing against the guy. I mean that as a complete compliment. I watch Page, and I don't know what it is. I kind of imagine myself fighting someone like that or sparring someone like that. I would get pissed off.
Yeah. That's how it goes. Yeah, exactly.
It's crazy, and I'm like, I'm just watching. I'm not even involved in this. Why am I getting angry? And in fact, if you ask me what I think of Michael Venom Page, like I have good opinions of him. Why am I getting pissed off? He's so good at it. It's oh my god, there's something about what he does. And a fellow geek too, by the way. Although it was horrible when he threw that Pokeball. He had like one of the worst injuries in MMA ever that he caused in a fight, and he throws a Pokeball and puts on a cap, and like, dude, read the room.
Yeah.
I'm not into Pokemon though. I have to say I'm not that geeky, but you know. Uh, yeah, that was. Oh man, that nose though. But what happens when that? You know, I don't even what because see my nose like that's something I'm always thinking about when I spar. And like, do you see my nose? I'm like, this is a very like if someone
Usually
throws a
they get
hook
knocked,
and
like,
yeah,
sideways, but he looked like he had a bust in the bridge of his nose in
man,
this cartilage here. Looked like
it
it
was
kind of
flat.
caved in.
I know. I have an uncle. I've never met him. He because I'm half Spanish, and I have an uncle who left Spain, and you know, like he was in Franco's Spain, the dictator, and he went to live in Mexico. And the guy's just like was always street fighting and brawling and whatever. And I've seen a video of him, and the guy's like basically like my nose, but like this side, and he speaks like with this like broken nose voice, and that gave me a good idea. If my nose gets broken, that's what it's gonna look like, and that's what I'm gonna sound like. So you know, so I'm kind of always obsessed with nose injuries in combat sports because of that. It doesn't like.
By the way, the cop you were just talking about, he just joined this chat. That's him, Doug. Doug Friend.
Hey.
Yeah.
Hey, man.
Doug, he brought you up earlier when we first started this. I think you were the first interview he saw. Yeah. He was a cop in Hawaii.
Oh, okay. I was okay. Oh my god, I didn't hear right. Oh my god. Hey, Doug. Yeah, I really like that episode. Like the Hawaii episode was like it sounded like some Mad Max stuff, man. Wrong continent, I know, but nevertheless, it was like you know the first Mad Max when there's still a society, but it's kind of like wild and yeah, not Road Warrior, the first Mad Max. It sounded like that. It don't sound like that. That episode was just like
classic.
That you know what that first Mad Max movie.
Mm-hmm.
I saw it once, and I was
Mel Gibson.
I was never, yeah, exactly. No, not Fury Road. I love Fury Road, but we're talking about the original Mad Max.
Mm-hmm.
I never saw it more than once. I've seen Road Warrior many times. Beyond Thunderdome, I've seen a few times. I've seen Fury Road like 2-3 times. Mad Max, I saw it once when I was really young, like maybe 20. Never watched it again. Never watched it again, and I remember it clearly. I don't know what it was about that movie, man. When the bad guys just do what they do, and I don't even know. I don't the way, dude. I don't. We've seen The Punisher. We've seen plenty of movies when like bad shit happens to a family, and then the guy's like, "I'm gonna get revenge," and it's a theme I don't like now. And my father, like, just don't like. You know, like the Tom Clancy with Michael B. Jordan, the Tom Clancy thing on Amazon Prime. I don't even want to watch it. Like, there's a time when I would have watched it. Like, okay, they're gonna kill his family at first, and I'm like, man, I don't know. I'm gonna watch something else. So it was always this delicate topic for me for some reason. And that first Mad Max, like, there's something about the way it was shot, and that props to Miller, I think. What's the name of the director? I think it's Miller, right? Anyway, props to Miller because George Miller, yeah. He's so efficient at shooting like action where he wanted to make it disturbing and it worked. That shit was disturbing as fuck for me. I don't know. Like when you see the shoe fly off, you're like, oh man, no, that fucking shoe, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just so visual. Okay, whatever. This is not. We're getting off topic here. Okay, here's an interesting one, and you know, I'm not very aware of what's going on right now in Myanmar. It's very. I'm aware, generally speaking, but I haven't gone into details. And maybe I shouldn't even bring it up because I haven't researched enough, I guess. But nevertheless, I'm going to mention it. There's this fighter named Pho Ta. He's in one championship. He's a lightweight fighter and MMA fighter. And in Myanmar right now, there's a coup from the army, and they're trying to get rid of democracy. And a lot of Myanmar people, who used to be Burma, and now it's Myanmar, they're fighting off the army. And Pho Ta is a fighter, and he was fighting for democracy. from what I understand, again, I haven't, maybe I should have done more research on this, but they were testing, and apparently they're using like homemade explosives. And as they were preparing one, he actually, I don't know, someone messed up, the explosion happened, his legs were wounded, and then he got arrested by the army. I don't know if you heard of this, but this is some crazy stuff going on right now.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard of it, and
Yeah.
obviously, like the second to last Rambo movie kind of played off of that. Remember, he was in Burma, so they were kind of already talking about that a little bit.
Oh yeah, the second to last. That's the one where he's catching snakes, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, older Stallone already. Okay, yeah, because there. Oh yeah, it's true. There was John Rambo. There's another one after that. I haven't seen it yet. Yeah, the
So
penultimate one.
kind of
Yes.
on that theme, so to speak.
Yeah.
You know, where the army was kind of running things in the country. I don't know much about that area. I was in the military, you know, for a long time, almost 10 years, but I don't really know much about the situation there. I mean, I know that, like you said, there's kind of a coup going on, but as far as operationally with the U.S., I don't know any guys that have been over there. So I don't really have a lot of knowledge about it per se. But it doesn't, you know, the homemade explosives and stuff, you used to see that with the Palestinians and the Israelis. The Palestinians often had people that would make homemade explosives.
Yeah.
And, yeah, that kind of stuff can happen when you're messing around with
And,
stuff in your house.
I don't even know if he'll be all right from that explosion, but also I'm worried that it's kind of messed up. Like what I'm worried is, of course, he was arrested by the army. That's really bad. But you know how people can be, like, for example, like Perez in Montreal and TriStar, he had a lot of trouble with cops who were like, and nothing against cops, but these specific ones were really harassing TriStar. And I think on some level, there's sometimes there's a jealousy when you know that when some men know this guy's a fighter, they kind of act in a very jealous way, and they're very like insecure. And my fear is that the army arrested him. If they, Fota is pretty popular in this country, and if they know he's a fighter and all that, and man, knock on wood that doesn't happen, but I'm just kind of afraid, what if they mess him up physically so he can't fight again or something? You know, like one thing is to be in a jail and rotting there and like waiting for maybe like democracy to win and get him out of there, hopefully. But the other thing is, what if they go like, oh, you're never going to fight again or something? I don't even know if I should be saying this out loud, but it's the fear I have for that guy right now, that they're going to be so jealous and insecure, you know, like, because they're ganging up, arresting citizens for trying to keep democracy. And I really hope that nothing, like, I don't hope that this is the end of his fighting career.
If he was caught making explosives, I have a feeling they'll probably keep him behind bars.
Yeah, but you can hope that, and I don't know what the odds are. I haven't researched this. I don't know what the odds are of saving democracy in that country. But, you know, if you get arrested and they just keep you there, there's always hope. But, anyway. It's a dark subject matter. It's,
Have you ever watched the movie Munich? You know,
you and I are cinephiles, aren't we? I haven't seen it though. I haven't seen the movie.
You know, that was kind of about the guys. I forgot what year it was, but they had a terrorist attack at the Olympics, where several Israeli wrestlers were killed.
I have to watch that.
Munich was about the hunt where they hunted down the guys that were involved in that, and you know, and a lot of the assassinations they did were with explosives.
Yeah.
The Israelis, when they hunted these guys down.
Yeah,
they put one in their phone or in their hotel room or whatever. So yeah, it's kind of, you might find that interesting. Or
yeah, maybe. I
watched a documentary called "Cult of the Suicide Bomber," and it was about, they had a segment in there about a guy, Ayesh. Ayesh is his name.
I have no idea.
And he was, you know, Israel. They had a lot of bus bombs, a lot of them, suicide bombs and bus bombs. And he was this, he had chemical training, and he was making these bombs. Some of them were suicide vest type bombs, and others were just explosives. But yeah, the guy went to his home, Robert Baer, he was a CIA agent. He went to the guy's house. You know, this is after Israelis had already killed him. But, you know, he had like a chemistry book that was falling apart. You know, it had been read so much. He had all these notes in it. But he was making explosives for the Palestinians. So it's kind of similar, you know, Israelis would just hunt these guys down and kill them rather than lock them up, you know. So they put a little They got
So,
someone.
so we don't even know if he's going to be kept in prison or if they're just going
Yeah,
to.
the Israelis, they have guys who, look like Arabs, speak Arabic, all that stuff, because they live amongst each other, right? So they got someone to give him a cell phone, kind of tricked him, befriend him, give him a cell phone because he was using different cell phones, and they put bomb in the cell phone. So when he used it, his hand wasn't even damaged at all.
That was precise.
Yeah, it took his head clean off. But yeah, so yeah, it's kind of along those same lines, I think, and even when we were in Afghanistan and Iraq, they're using a lot of IEDs, obviously. So I think the public in Myanmar, maybe they don't have, I don't know the situation there, but they may not have the weaponry to fight the army. So
they don't. They're literally like throwing Molotov cocktails or whatever, and they have like scarves. And
right.
in this case, I don't.
And those things can be effective, as to where, like, if you saw, there's another movie, Enemy at the Gates, about the Russian snipers when they fought.
I know. I haven't seen it, but I know that. But I'm not big into army movies because they depress the hell out of me.
But the snipers, they were demoralizing the Nazi army because they were they were used to just going in and fighting other. Right. Now they got these people taking pot shots at them.
Yeah.
And it was real demoralizing. So, yeah, that's kind of, I guess that's what they have to resort to in Myanmar.
Oh, yeah, Russian snipers were terrifying. Apparently, I remember two stories. There was one who was like in the wilderness in the snow, and he would put snow in his mouth to not create condensation. And there was a woman, who killed, I don't know how many Nazis. That woman, but I don't know their names or don't remember the stories in detail. But I do know, even I'm not like a guy who's like super into army stuff. And I'm not like I'm not anti-army at all. But it's a subject that, and I know for you obviously it's very interesting, but because you lived it. But for me, it's just I get really depressed when I watch that stuff.
I was a submariner, so I was a little different. I lived underwater.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so do you like the Cthulhu mythos from Lovecraft, or you avoided those books? Oh, you don't know? Okay.
I didn't read books, but I've seen some different submarine movies. Yeah.
Okay. Because my geek is showing Lovecraft, H.P. Lovecraft. It's like old horror stuff.
Oh yeah, I know who it is.
Yeah, so Cthulhu is like this creature that slumbers in the sea. Anyway, whatever. I'm guessing that most people don't bring that book in a submarine. And okay. You know what? Let's see. This is already a while back, but I'm trying. I'm gonna do this once per week now, so some stuff will be many days late, which online means it's a year ago. Yuri Prohatska beats Dominic Reyes, and there's many from that win come many questions. Like Dominic Reyes, how does he fit in that division? What does that say about John Jones giving his fight with Reyes? And what are Yuri's chances against Bakovic? I don't know how. I'll let you go first. Anything you want to say about that fight or its consequences or where it's leading?
Yeah, you could. I talked a little bit about it with Brian Johnston. I don't know if you watched the show I did with him or listened to it, but we kind of talked about it a little bit. Brian Johnson fought in the early UFCs, like UFC 10.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Okay, I saw the. I didn't see the full episode, but I did see the short video you put on your Instagram. That's kind of what I see from your show. I don't have a lot of time.
He was kind of talking about the volume of Prohaska.
Yes.
And I kind of asked him what he felt was more important, volume.
He said volume.
Well, he kind of said speed, more along the lines of speed. But yeah, I thought Reyes landed some good shots.
Yeah.
One of them kind of hurt Prohaska, but he couldn't stop him from pressuring him. And the volume. A lot of the things that Prohaska does probably aren't things you'd be taught. Throwing punches from your hips and.
I want to get to that.
Head out here. He does a lot of stuff. These things work in MMA for some reason. In boxing people don't get away with that kind of stuff. But in MMA, they call it being awkward. And I think his awkwardness and his pressure, Reyes couldn't.
The gloves. I think the gloves are a big part of it. Because if you swing, it's so much easier to defend with big gloves, even if it's 10 ounces.
Yeah.
So no gloves, your hands are gonna slip through a lot of stuff. So I think right away, like just the element of you're not sure where it's coming from. Also, like the hand has less, kind of contradictory, but the hand has less surface. So it's like if someone slips, they need to slip less, which seems to contradict my previous point, but somehow it doesn't in my head. But and you know, like the memes of Yuri being Goro because of the hair, and so people have like Photoshop forearms. It does feel like he has the two lower arms, and he should have another pair of arms for defense. It feels like it fits, right? Like he should have a second pair of arms up here. Goro from Mortal Kombat has 4 arms. It looks like that, and I think it doesn't say anything bad about Reyes. I think it's just a killer division. I want to get to John Jones after, but maybe it should be its own. Maybe we'll keep for after. But I don't think Blachowicz. I don't think Yuri beats Blachowicz because Blachowicz hit so hard, and Yuri his defense is not what it should be. Unless he changes his style, I think Blachowicz is going to knock him out.
Yeah, I think that's possible. Yeah. It'll be interesting because Yuri's maybe a little bit quicker, but if he gets hit with Blahovich's punches, you know.
But Blachowicz is so patient and he's defensively sound. So even if Yuri's gonna be quick and all that, but like the thing about Blachowicz, and thank you for correcting the pronunciation there, he will not get impatient.
Yeah.
And we saw that against Israel Adesanya. That was a real test for Blachowicz because people have gone impatient with Adesanya over and over and over again, or they did something like Romero did, which was kind of like not do anything at all, which is not really the answer. So I think what Blachowicz did is he proved how freaking patient he is. And that's why I don't think, if you don't get tricked by Adesanya, I don't think you get tricked by Yuri, and maybe I'll be proven wrong, but that's why I think. I think Blachowicz is very likely to win that fight when it happens.
Yeah, I agree.
I
agree with you.
Yeah, like Blachowicz is not the guy who...
He would land something because Yuri's being so, saying not defensively responsible.
It's
aggressive, but not responsible at the same time. Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, in fact, I think... Well, no, you know what? Okay, let's see when that fight happens.
I think he could take Yuri down as well.
Oh,
yeah.
Then again, the hands down may help against takedowns. The hands down may be actually, you know, that's one thing.
But when you have someone who's a good wrestler, you can't be as aggressive. So it's gonna. I think the matchup wise, it's gonna favor Prohaska. Or I'm seeing Blachowicz.
Blachowicz, yeah, I think so too. Do you think that says anything about John Jones leaving the division at the time he did?
No, I just think he's been around a long time, so he's not as dominant. You know, he's just not as dominant as he used to be. He's not as
Everyone studied him. Everyone studied just him ever since they entered that division. I think so too. I think it's I think a lot of fighters have, ever since they joined UFC in that division, if not before, whatever camp they were training for the next fighter, they were also training for Jones. I think that's a big part of it. I think they're, you know, I think it merits being brought up, but I don't think it speaks ill of John Jones. I think it's more when people train exactly for you and your style, it's gonna mean something. You know, like they have hours. Right. It's gonna mean something.
Hard to be champ for that long.
Yeah, and which makes also like people like Khabib just freaking impressive, really, because everyone knows what he's gonna do. It's not even like there's no trickery there. I mean, there is, but it's not like it's a mystery how he'll approach things. You know, like everyone knows he's gonna do, and he still does it. But yeah. So now I saw you make a joke about the tap, the Brazilian tap, being the the perfect technique to escape anything, right?
Well, you know, I'll send you the video, but the Gracie brothers, Henner and Huron, they did a breakdown of Sonnen versus Silva when it originally happened. And when Sonnen got caught in the triangle, he tapped once really quickly. And then he tried to, when the referee intervened, he tried to move he escaped when the referee intervened and tried to continue fighting. They called it the Brazilian tap. They said, this is a Brazilian tap. That's what this is called. What you do is you tap once real quick,
Yeah.
or twice, and either your opponent's going to let you go, or the
Yeah.
referee's going to intervene, and then you say, no, I didn't tap. I want to keep going.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, in Werdum's case, I guess he released a little bit.
I think so.
Which allowed the guy who's fighting to continue fighting and knock him out. But
Because people,
Brazilian tap, same.
Because people said that he didn't let it go. It's like in their mind it's all or nothing. But there is such a thing as a fighter being honorable and not releasing completely, but just kind of like what. And some people say, "Oh, he readjusted the head." Yeah, because if you release, you want to make sure he doesn't get out at the same time.
Right.
So I think he was adjusting in the sense of, "I'm going to keep you here until the ref comes, even though I'm releasing." So I think some people are like, "Oh, he was," but no. And yeah, that's. I like I don't know how to feel about that because I hate you know how sometimes people say something that might be true on some level, but where they coming from when they say it is what you disagree with. I don't know if you know what I mean. Like, people are like, "Oh, he should have waited for a ref," but the people saying that are people who like sometimes they never train their lives. They're just like, "Yeah, you should have just kept hurting the guy." And on some level, I kind of agree, but I don't like where they're coming from with it. For them, it's like this obvious thing, and it's not like this thing when you have to look inwards and really think about it. It's just like this. Well, that's a sport, like.
I'm sure Werdum's been trained to do that, but the thing is, in training and just rolling, he releases just like everybody else. So his mind this time did what he normally would do. But I'm sure when he fight trains, they tell him, don't stop till the referees. But when you're rolling in jiu-jitsu, you always release when someone taps. So his mind just said, I'll release,
Yeah,
sure he's been told not to stop until the referee says it's over. But his mind didn't that one time.
So you think that it was just a habit?
Forever, he knows.
Yeah, so you think it was a habit, and you tried to rephrase it like, "Oh, I didn't want to hurt the other guy." Do you think that was the?
No, I think his mind just reacted that way. He was, he's a jiu-jitsu guy. He rolls every day, and he probably does that 1,000,000 times a day. Release, 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 release. Yeah, and that's what happened.
Yeah. So Kyla Harrison said that she what time is it? Let me just double. What time is it right now?
I don't know.
Are you good for time? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm
okay. Kyla Harrison says she wants to fight Amanda Nunes. I'm thinking like, well, none at PFL you want. So I don't think Nunes will leave the UFC before her retirement. I think that's a fight that would make a lot of sense at this point, but of course, like like MMA being what it is right now, and when people say like, boxing has its issues and MMA has its issues about how it treats its fighters, and when you look at like, oh yeah, okay, so like Kyla Harrison, Amanda Nunes would make would make a lot of sense, but it can't happen because they're in different organizations, and then. I do see this as an argument to, if the organizations aren't going to like do cross, what I mean to say is I think if fighters were given more rights, if they were giving more choices, I do think that in the sport of MMA, with the culture of MMA, it would give us more fun fights. I don't think it would take them away. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but I think that we would get something like Kyla Harrison and Amanda Nunes if they had more freedom. I don't think it would become boring fights all the time. And even boxing is actually coming around to making more fun fights because of MMA. They're like, oh, we're losing people here. We should start correcting this. Yeah. So I think just the competition itself will make it so we don't have boring fights. But what are your thoughts on this? What do you think?
There's no competitive structure in mixed martial arts. Like, you can, like, if you want to see who the best wrestler is, and this is another video I'd have to send you because I'm going to kind of steal this from Chael. He said, send away. Yeah, he said, if you want to see who the best wrestler is, go watch the Olympic Games.
Yeah.
Any wrestler is allowed to compete to try to get into Olympic Games. They have a process that'll be broken down over time, where you have people competing to get on a team, people get on the team, then they get in the Olympics. That's broken down until there's one guy left in every weight class on the planet. But MMA doesn't have that. There's no requirements to get in the UFC. you could even be the best fighter in your weight class in the UFC and not be the champion because you can't get into the title fight, or you could be one of them, right?
Yeah.
So that's what he was kind of talking about. MMA doesn't have that. So are we watching the best fighters fight each other? No, we aren't. You know, and I would say boxing is the same. Boxing has that problem, but because the UFC has a visibility as being the only MMA organization to a lot of people, they kind of get away with it. But we have the same problem that boxing has, even though Dana White says we don't. We do. The best fighters, not all the best fighters are fighting. You got guys
wait. Are you saying that Dana White lies?
yeah, exactly. But I mean, you got fighters in one, you got people in PFL, you got people in the UFC that, you know, it'd be great to watch them fight each other, but we won't get to see that. And so it's a problem that boxing has.
And also, I think it would be interesting to see people with like many belts without having to jump weight classes and like take years off their careers.
Yeah.
That'll be pretty cool because again, leads us to this. I think this leads more naturally to the next subject. I've been very like cutting to the next subject, but this leads into the whole weight cut issues, and which I didn't even write down here. So weight cuts, man, and it's kind of like one says they have the solution, but they don't have any. Like Luke Thomas often points out in the show, like they don't have any proof. They just tell us that they do. And when I saw, I'm sorry, and you know, I feel bad for saying this because I might be wrong. So I feel bad because I have no reason to say it really, except my gut feeling. When I saw the guy that Moraes, that Demetrius Johnson fought and he lost against, like Johnson looked a lot smaller. I'm sorry, like we're not just talking because normally when a guy's way taller, he's also way skinnier. But this, like the frame and all, I was like, are they really in the same weight class though?
Right.
It's kind of like Sage Northcutt's sister when she fought her first opponent and won, and her opponent was. I'm like, are they really in the same weight class? It doesn't look like that. So I don't know. I think in one they, my opinion, even though I love one championship, I find they make like amazing events. I don't know about their weight class. I think they just make it up. I don't even know if I should say it because this is just a gut feeling. It's not even like, but yeah.
Well, maybe they could have more weight classes, but you know, it's always been an issue from the beginning. Even when they didn't really have, you know, when they didn't have weights, you obviously had bigger guys fighting smaller guys. But I think it's always been an issue. Even, you know, when they had less weight classes, then they add more. It's still a problem. You know, I don't know what the answer is.
Same day weight,
No.
same day weighing,
So,
same day. That's
Yeah.
it. It's
it's
simple.
interesting to see it, yeah.
Like,
But I
just
don't know if guys have the knowledge to do it. I mean, wrestlers they know how to do that and still compete, as to where I think a lot of guys don't. So we may still see some weirdness, you know, where guys can't fight and all that because wrestlers know how to do that. They're used to cutting weight. They're used to competing. That's why wrestling's such a great sport. To me, wrestlers are like fighters, basically. And they are like that from grade school. They're used to, especially when they get to high school, of cutting weight, competing in front of people. They're doing all the same things. When they come to the UFC, all they're doing is hitting people now. That's the only difference. They're used to competing a lot. Sometimes they're used to competing more than once in a day.
Yeah.
And but I think your average person who isn't a wrestler, they don't know how to cut weight. And even some of the trainers don't. So, you know, you're always going to have this issue.
man. I mean, I can't even imagine. Like if I skip a meal, I feel like I'm like it's psychosomatic. I'm not really gonna faint, but I feel like I'm like, oh, I'm weak, you know.
Right.
So I
But
can't even
same day
imagine
might
it.
be interesting. I don't know if they'd ever go to it. You know, I've had guys talk to me about that before. Like
I would love
friends
that. Yeah.
friends that I have fight would say, "Oh, we should do this or that." You know, it would be interesting to see. I don't know if it's one of those things like we were talking about earlier. Are we ever going to see the best people fight each other? Are we going to ever see same day weigh-ins? It might be a good idea to try, but would we see it?
I wish an organization come along with enough money that was like, obviously no organization can be completely self-serving. I get that. But what if an organization came along and did like all of the things people talk? I think that in itself would be a great marketing aspect. And an organization comes, hey guys, we're going to do same day weigh-ins, open scoring, and whatever other stuff is like giving fighters what they want without necessarily, and this is going to be awful to say, but without doing much more than the other ones, you know, like not in the sense that they're risking lots of money, they don't know if they're going to get it back, but just like doing enough that fighters might go like, oh, that's really cool. You know, like just a few aspects. Although a lot of fighters also like the way the weigh-ins work, like the way they work because I'm catching the show. It's about the Canelo fight.
No, Zach, we're not talking about the Canelo fight. We're just kind of talking about random stuff. We haven't
I don't follow boxing enough, but do you have just for the interested? Do you have anything to say about the Canelo fight, which I know very little about?
People are saying they expect it to be more competitive than his past fights. You know, that Saunders is a good. You know, he's good, but I think most people that I've talked to said they don't feel like Saunders is going to be able to have the power to keep Canelo off of him for a full fight. If he wins, it would be by decision, which would be difficult to do because Canelo is such a hard hitter that maybe late in the fight he might TKO Saunders or knock Saunders out. But a lot of people are expecting to be very competitive, you know, and I even talked to some pro boxers that I've had on my show before about what they think of it. And they expect it to, you know, be a good fight, that Saunders has some abilities that may pose problems for Canelo that other guys didn't.
I heard something about a ring size. I don't know what.
Yeah, I think he was, again, that's kind of thing, almost like a Diego type thing where Saunders is a weirdo, you know, a little bit.
Okay.
And I think
I know nothing about him.
I think he's kind of messing with people, you know, just trying to mess with Canelo.
Which is a good thing, right?
I'll make this. I'll say I won't fight if the ring's big enough just to kind of bother him.
Yeah.
He's kind of a person, Saunders.
Okay.
If you ever watch him interview, he's a little bit weird. Yeah.
Boxing is one of those sports where at some point I really have to spend a few months just getting interested in it more. Mm-hmm. My problem, and this is my issue, because you know boxing is an amazing sport, and even an amazing combat style, even in itself. Because when you look at every other martial art that has punches that is efficient, they have just taken boxing. That's what they have done. My issue is when I see stuff that works only within the context of boxing, and this is my issue, I disconnect. And this is the same way when I was practicing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and people would do stuff that I could just start punching down to their face and it would be over, but I couldn't. And not that I wanted to start punching, but I wanted to kind of keep it in mind the way I trained BJJ, and I would lose interest. And it's kind of funny, a lot of people, to beat me, all they had to do was do something that was completely impractical in a real fight, and I would basically almost give up mentally. It was whatever, let's get it over with. I'm kind of weird like that, and then you'd have people who also practice MMA or something, and they would come to the gym, and then against them I'd be rolling much better because they were not doing things that made me lose all motivation. Like, I don't need to learn this. And like, if someone is like upside down and just like with their legs wrapped around my waist and they're just like holding on to my gi, and I'm looking down on them like still standing, I'm like, I don't need to, whatever. And this is my problem. I should have been more motivated, and going forward, I'll try to, but I always lost that motivation because I'm like, I don't need to learn this, or like, I just need to like punch down or just lift you and slam you. Like, I don't need to learn how to. So I was kind of like doing better against people who also kept those things in mind. So boxing for me is, I need to get interested in it because like BJJ, it has a lot of stuff that even though maybe you don't do all of those things, you still learn something from it. And I need to really start watching those things and getting more interest in the details because I think it has transitional value nevertheless.
There's nothing that works in no gi that you would need to put on a gi to learn. Just remember that.
Wait, say that again.
There's works in no gi that you need to put a gi on to learn. I do think it helps with the grip, for sure.
Well, I'm Canadian.
There's no technique that works in no gi that you need to put a gi on to learn.
Okay, that is true. That. Okay, that is true. However, I love combat sambo. It's and I am Canadian, and I could go right now. I'm not going to do that because I'd be wasting time in the show. But if it was still winter, if my coat was easily accessible, I will go grab it right now and just show you what it looks like. It literally has like grips. My winter coat is like this winter coat, and I have another thing underneath the winter coat to zip, and I can button the other part. It has like 2 layers. If I were to fight a judoka in winter, I would be fucked. Like, you understand me? I would be fucked And that's not gonna be something you learn in no gi. So I think when it comes to the sport of MMA, don't waste time with gi for sure. When it comes to self-defense, learn both, because I really like. I remember one thing I was like, wow, this is cool. In BJJ, I was gonna like, we're already on the floor, and I was gonna like get on top of this guy, and I was convinced I was gonna do it. And suddenly something stopped me, and the guy was grabbing my pant like I hadn't even noticed. And I wear jeans, and my jeans are not stiff; they're very stretchy, so they can. So all these things, to me, if you talk self-defense, the answer is not.
Oh,
Is
no
it
doubt.
gi or no gi? It's both. It's both. Self-defense is both. That's to me, at least as a Canadian, because I always wear jeans. I wear coats in winter.
Right.
I wear jackets in autumn. And if someone it was like, I'm a boxer, you better mind yourself, I'd be like, okay, well, depends. But if someone goes like, I'm a judoka, and it's winter, and we're on concrete or on ice, and I'm wearing a winter coat, I'll be like, bro, you win the argument.
I can tell you a story. There was a black belt that BJ Penn brought to Hawaii. His name's Leandro Niza.
Okay.
And they were partying, and this guy, Abe Rodriguez, he's another black belt. I don't think he was a black belt at the time, but he is now.
Okay.
But a very good grappler in Hawaii, Abe Rodriguez.
Yeah. Okay.
And they were messing around, or they got in a fight. Something happened. And I think Abe ended up on his back, and Niza grabbed his pants and threw to the side, just like you would do in a gi. He grabbed the bottom of his pants, and he pummeled. His head was like, pummeled his head in. So yeah, it definitely works. Yeah. Don't get me wrong, but
not for MMA.
No gi. There's no moves in no gi that you need to put on a gi to learn, and I think I agree. I think that's why you're seeing guys that specialize in no gi now. It used to be people would say, "Oh, the gi guys dominate because they wear the gi." No, like it's these guys like Gordon Ryan, Gary Tone, and all these guys that specialize in no gi.
Yeah.
As the numbers start to add up, before there were so many numbers, like 300 gi guys competing against 10 no gi guys. The numbers, the percentage chance of winning is over here, not over here. Yeah. But as the numbers even out, now as many people are training no gi as gi, now you see in Abu Dhabi and some of these, now it's all kinds of people.
Yeah, no gi is more fun. Okay, no gi is more fun. Like, my personal experience was when I did BJJ, I was at the school that did basically no gi ever. Sometimes it would be like, very rarely, a younger teacher would be like, oh, we're doing no gi today. But it wasn't like there was a dedicated class. And then at some point it happened. And those first few, they caught up quickly because they were higher belts. But those first few classes, I would go against higher belts, and suddenly it was like, oh my God, this is so cool. Because the guy would normally grab my gi and slow me down and just take their time putting me in traps that I couldn't escape, like this slow anaconda, And then when we switched to no gi, they had no grips, and I would just grab them and fling them. I was like, oh, this is fun. So I had a lot of fun with no gi. I think it's really fun. But to me, martial arts, my interest is in self-defense. I was never a sports guy. I'm watching MMA because I kind of got interested in martial arts in that way. To me, it was self-defense. So because of that, I like to keep those aspects in mind in the country I live in. I don't live in California. I'm not walking around in my bathing suit all day in the beach. So to me, that's an essential part. But for sure, if you do no gi competitions, why would you waste the time in a gi? If you do MMA, why would you that's your career? That's different, that's. But I think in self-defense, there's value to both. Where people go, it's one or the other. No, it's both. Okay, well, enough of that. Okay, here's one where if you want to completely skip this subject matter, I wouldn't blame you. Caitlyn Jenner, as the kind of the last thing before I have to go in. Caitlyn Jenner is going into politics. She's a Republican, and trans woman, and she said that now she believes that. Okay, let me not get this wrong here. Let me think about it for a moment. I don't want to get the phrasing wrong, and then she said that trans women, that is to say, they used to have the bodies of men, transition to women, shouldn't compete with other girls in sports schools, which I agree with. However, and this is not against trans people, I support their rights and all that, but fair is fair in combat sports. I'm going to have examples after, but however, what I don't like about that is that she used to say different, and now she's gone into politics. Now she says that. And to me, stuff like this whether you agree with me or not, it has to be an honest discussion. It has to be like what you honestly think, and let's discuss it, because it's important. It's people's lives. It's people's lives, what they do with their lives. And I might say something today, you give me enough evidence, I might change my mind tomorrow. So what I find disturbing is like she changed her mind to go into politics, right? Like she always said one thing, and even though now she's saying something I would agree with in theory, I don't agree with the way she does it now, where she says that as she's going to politics as a Republican. Do you have any thoughts on that, or do you prefer
I think
to
it's
not?
common in politics. You see people do that a lot. So Jenner wouldn't be the first person to do that by far. You know, a lot of them do that based off of the pressure they get from the public. They know they have to get votes and please a certain amount of people, so they're like, yeah, you know, I'll change my mind on this topic. So, you know, there's no authenticity in politics, or I don't even think in Hollywood in general. You know, because they're having to please people. That is their job, is to please you know, my job's not to please people.
No.
You know, I just go to work. That's all it is. But their job revolves around, you know, being accepted and by a large group of people. So they may go back on things that they believe in private just to appease a certain, you know, that happens too much in the world today, but it's the world we live in. I think it's the right position, so I'm glad that.
Yeah, I don't like where it's coming from. To me,
Caitlyn Jenner is saying that, because it's true. Males
I agree.
Competing gets especially in combat sports, and that's Ackelman talked about. He even talked about guys that use steroids. You know, even after you use steroids,
you're different.
Still getting a lot of the benefits.
Like Chris Cyborg, you know,
right, that you had before. Your muscles more dense.
Yeah.
You have a lot of benefits that you didn't have before, even when you cycle off. And he said that's why it's very dangerous. And John Hackelman talked about, if you watched my last one, we talked about
I'm going to watch it for sure. I love Hackelman.
he does this stuff better than me, so yeah, maybe.
But I don't know if he would appreciate the comparison. So I'm saying this, like, I hope it's understood. I'm very respectful when I say this, but I think if you want to compete and you have a physical handicap, what I mean is, let's say that you transition from man to woman. You're going to have a physical advantage over women. So I think you should. I respect that someone says, I'm a woman now. I'm going to respect that 100%. Like, people have to live their lives and have to leave them the heck alone. Or not leave them alone, but I mean, have to respect what makes them happy. Why wouldn't I? Like, well, what does it matter to me? However, it wouldn't be fair for a trans girl to be fighting girls. So I do think that trans girls, as unfair as it sounds, should wrestle with men. And yes, they're going to have a disadvantage. However, when I look at, and I don't know if he would appreciate me bringing him up, I don't know, but it's a good example. I'm sorry. Nick Newell, who has like one full arm, and I don't know how you call it right now, one partial arm, where he has like, it stops kind of like after the elbow. He wrestled against people with two arms. And
I used to train with the guy that had no legs. His legs ended at his knees.
Yeah.
And he kicked my ass, dude, every time I trained with him. It was so hard to go against him. And his arms were like so strong.
The weight, because the way he gets him in the weight class, but his
The first time I trained with him, I thought I would clobber him, you know?
Yeah.
But the control he had, it was almost like hooks.
Yeah.
His legs ended at the knee, but they were rounded, you know? And he would just sink them in on the ribs, and from the mount, you couldn't get them off. It was like claws, you know?
Oh, that's amazing. That's so cool.
In a way, wrestling a guy like that, there's some
well,
guys
Newell puts, when he sinks in the choke, people have nothing to grab onto.
Yep.
Like they would have to go like this.
He's been pretty effective as a fighter, Nick Newell.
He's fought Gaethje, and it was competitive. Competitive. I know Gaethje messed him up, but Gaethje messes a lot of people up. So it's kind of what I think. Understand and this is my personal opinion. I don't want to, like, everyone has their opinions. I do think, okay, if you're a trans girl, okay, I'm not gonna disrespect you. Fine, I'm gonna call you a girl and all that. But I understand that it might be weird for you to be like, oh, I consider myself a girl and I have to wrestle boys. But fair's fair. Like, it's not. You can't punish a whole group of people, the other girls. And that might seem a bit unfair, but I think in life, like, Nick Newell didn't ask for the other wrestlers to tie their arms behind their backs, is my point.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you know, like this is my stance, and sometimes I'm very centrist. It's kind of like when I start talking, I piss off the left and I piss off the right. Yeah, it's just I kind of agree with the statement, but I don't agree with where it comes from, if that makes any sense, because I want people to be honest. I want people to, if you disagree with me, argue me, it's fine, but don't be dishonest. You know, that's my stance on things.
I think if you let trans compete in the Olympics against women, eventually the women would come out and say, we don't like this. It wouldn't take very long either, because they get beat.
Yeah, of course. They get beat
handily, and it would be only a matter of time until people like the women's soccer team, if they got clobbered by a trans soccer, they'd be pissed. I'm sure of it.
Yeah,
they would not say we don't like this.
And I think what you know,
they don't need us to say it. They would say it eventually. They would get tired of getting beat by these people.
Yeah. And maybe, you know, because the thing is, I don't know if they have enough athletes of anything, but obviously maybe like even a league where they can compete between themselves, that would be amazing for them. Like, because I understand, like they want to compete. I want to take that away from anyone. If you know, but it's just when you see like in, but sometimes the rules are stupid too, because there was a trans man in high school a few years ago. He wrestled, used to be like a buddy of a woman, transitions to a boy, but they made him wrestle girls. Like that was the school. He wanted to wrestle boys, and then all the parents are booing, and then everyone was like, "Oh, that crowd was transphobic." No, that crowd. Well, maybe some of them were, whatever. But what I mean is the crowd saw their daughters being manhandled by a boy. Because even the boy would say, "I'm a boy," so we're all agreeing on this. So they saw their daughters being manhandled by a boy, and of course but I'm not saying that it's the most peaceful way to sell things or like starting to boo, and that was the fault of the school. The boy wanted to wrestle other boys, so whatever. Again, like that athlete wanted to go against other boys, they wouldn't. So this is a mess. This is just a mess. But I do think that it should be, look, compete if you want, but you have to compete at a disadvantage because. You can't have the world, you have to enter the world as it is. Nick Newell didn't ask, I'm going to wrestle, but everyone has to tie their hands behind their backs. That's not what he did. And again, I'm really sorry if he doesn't like me using as an example. I don't know what his stances are on things, but I think it's a good example. Like, and the guy you mentioned, like he wasn't like, you cannot use your legs when we grapple because I don't have full legs. Like, he didn't do that. So, if I'm going to be 40, if I'm sparring with a much younger guy, I'm not going to go, oh, I need you to slow down. Well, okay, maybe if I'm getting hurt, but in general, I'm not going to say like, I need you to start moving slower because I'm twice your age. You know, like, it's a delicate subject, but and then again, it's kind of funny because my stance was like, well, that wasn't your opinion.
right. That's common in politics, though. It's not
I know. I'm kind of like, yeah. Anyway, so okay, Todd. I guess I don't know how long we've been doing this, but maybe close to
I don't know. What time is it?
I don't know. I'm afraid of tapping my screen and closing some. Okay. Anyway, I think I have to get going. So Todd Atkins show. Anything that you wanted to bring up before we go, or where can people find you?
No, I'm glad. I enjoyed talking to you. I'm glad you wanted to even talk to me.
But, oh man, I love your show, and I never have time to watch all of it, but I love watching
that stuff. Is because I'm from that era. That's when I first found the UFC, and I lived in Japan for a few years also, so I went to a lot of Pride events, and I lived in Hawaii also. I was stationed in Hawaii, so I knew T.J. Thompson, who's the promoter of Super Brawl, and so I went to a lot of those events. So these are a lot of people that I met over those years. A lot of people that are on my show are people I knew either personally or through the forum, mixedmartialarts.com or MMA.tv as it's called now.
I'm going to check it out later.
Yeah.
I wrote it down. It's easy to remember. I still wrote it down.
There's a lot of people there. It was kind of a zoo, but so
isn't everything online?
That's kind of why I did that. I felt what I really wanted to do was bring some people in who I thought their viewpoints, they have a good way of articulating their viewpoints, but maybe people haven't heard of them, because I know a lot of guys like that people have no idea who they are, but they could, there's things that they could talk about technique wise, fight wise, all kinds of stuff, training wise, that would be valuable, that would be helpful to people. So that's really why I wanted to do it.
Yeah, this, I don't have enough time in my life right now, but I love going to your Instagram and sometimes like watching a clip. I love that you put clips. Please keep doing that because I don't always have the time to watch full episodes. Yeah. Anyway, Todd, thank you very much for coming to the show. And everyone, thanks for watching.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me, man.
Bye. It's a pleasure.
Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. Also, I have a Patreon that you can find in the description of this video. Thank you very much.